Check Sports, right? It's sports time with Mike Cozzi, and let's bring Mike in. Good morning there, Mike.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm good.
All right. We have a nice warm day. You're close to 40 degrees already this morning here.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, what a bad thing is I came in to make a cup of tea today, all right? We have one of those Keurig, things.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot to take the coffee one out that I used when I made it yesterday. So I put my tea bag in the
Oh,
glass,
that's good.
and I hit it just expecting to get. Now this is better, and so the water comes out, and I'm doing other things, and I come back and I get it, and I put my 2 fake sugars in it, and I come in here, and I take a big gulp of it. I want to tell you, never mix coffee and Hawaiian tea together, because it makes you want to puke.
I bet.
I took a
That's
big.
like my friend who he bootlegged some vodka into Belmont one year for the Belmont in the Poland Spring bottle, and he didn't finish all of the bottles, and he brought them home and left them in the refrigerator, and he took one the next day to go to work thinking it was water and took a big gulp of water, but it was vodka.
That's exactly right. Surprise. Well, anyways, before we get to racing, my surprise is Bob Stoops. You know who Bob Stoops is, right?
Yeah, he was the coach of Oklahoma.
That's right. He'll be coaching next in the XFL.
Boy, they must be giving him a lot of money to do nothing.
I was going to say, the XFL he's going to be in. Oh,
I say 60% of the season gets played and they pull the plug.
That's the XFL. This other season that's starting now, they're already locked in. They're fine. They're actually fine. It's going to be interesting to see how they work this first year, but they're fine for the first year. This other league, which beat the XFL up by 1 year.
When does this bogus thing start?
The one that's backed by NFL former players and stuff like that, the one that's got a lot of backing and money behind it, starts on Sunday.
When's it end?
It's like a 10-week season.
Okay, so they'll probably be done by the time baseball starts.
Yeah, they'll by the time baseball really gets going, the league will be over. That's exactly.
So people might watch it once in a while for a novelty.
And if they do a good job, then they'll be back next year. That's the whole thing. You remember the XFL, the first week it had great ratings, but it was such a sham that it just fell off the blocks the next week. So we'll have to see what this other league does. But it's going to be interesting.
Buy your souvenirs early, folks. They're not going to be around long.
All right. Now, where else do you want to go in sports before we go to racing?
Frank Robinson
he
passed away yesterday.
That was a sad story. You think of these guys, Mike, I do anyways, when you don't see them for a long time, you remember them when you saw them play.
Mm-hmm.
And he was smooth as a vodka going down. I mean, really, at your throat. He was just an amazing player.
He was one tough SOB, man.
Yeah,
he was a tremendous hitter.
Yep.
He won MVP in both leagues. People don't remember he came up with the Cincinnati Reds. This guy was one tough out at the plate, and he can beat you with a base hit. He could beat you with a home run. He was an excellent outfielder. And what a lot of people probably don't know about him was he was a tremendous basketball player. He was the captain of his high school basketball team that Bill Russell was on.
He was an amazing athlete. He could, like you just said, he could beat you with the bat. He could beat you with his arm. He could beat you in the outfield. It didn't matter. He was one of those players that was a player that changed the complexion of the game when he played.
And if you got a little too close with him, he'd beat you with his fists too. Frank Robinson was an old-time, real baseball player. One that I looked up to when I was a kid. Whenever Frank Robinson was coming up to bat, you didn't leave the room. If the Orioles were playing, you watched them, and Frank Robinson was one of the players you wanted to see. If he played today in the major leagues today, he'd be one of the top 5 players in baseball, without a doubt.
Yeah. No, an amazing guy, an absolutely amazing guy, and humble.
Yeah, very humble. And he was the first African-American manager in baseball. He was the manager of the Cleveland Indians when they wore those disgusting red pajama uniforms, and he was just a tremendous player.
Yeah.
Tremendous player, Gold Glove winner, two-time MVP. What could you say about him?
Yeah.
Tremendous player and a very, very good man.
That's absolutely right. And before we get on to your racing, I just want to mention that Anthony Davis has decided to say, the hell with everybody else that was trying to trade for him. He's going to sit right where he is for the rest of the year and play with the Pelicans, and everybody else can keep their pieces and go home. So,
well, there was a slight rumor that the Knicks had an interest in him, so I guess that's what convinced him just to stay in New Orleans.
Well, you know what? I think he's smart. He'll wait till the end of the season, and he'll see what other teams are doing. I think it's a smart move. It really is. It's in his best interest. He's young. He'll spend the rest of the season with this team. He's got a bright future in front of him. So
no doubt.
Yeah. All right. Well, you said we got some racing this weekend.
Yeah, we're heading down to Tampa. Starts tomorrow at about 3:45. The 8th race is the Grade 3 Tampa Bay. It's a mile and a 16th on the turf. It draws in 8 horses. A nice field here. The 7, Heart to Heart's your favorite. This horse was a pretty good horse last year, but toward the end of last year, this horse just fell off the map. Buyers fell. This horse is 8 years old now, a little bit long in the tooth. 8-year-old horses, they lose a step or two, and I think this horse is a very vulnerable favorite tomorrow. A couple horses I'm going to use. One is the 4-horse Quirban. This horse is trained by Kieran McLaughlin, hasn't been seen since December in Fort Lauderdale when it ran second. This horse is a consistent horse, runs nice buyers, runs against good horses. I'm going to use this horse in my exacta. I'm going to use Shug McGahee's horse, the 2-horse Inspector Lindley, 1-for-1 over the turf at Tampa, and won this race last year at 3-1. But the top horse I'm going to use is the 3, Desiderio. I picked this horse in the Breeders' Cup Mile, got beat less than a length at 43-1. Hasn't been seen since the middle of December when this horse also ran in the Fort Lauderdale. Didn't get the best of trips that day. Comes back off some nice works for Kelly Rubley, who has her horses nicely placed for big races and big efforts. And I think the Desiderio's nicely placed tomorrow. So the 8th race tomorrow, top pick's going to be the 3, Desiderio. And I'm going to use the 4, Corban, and Inspector Lindley, the 2, in my exactas. And going into the 9th race, it's a prep for 3-year-old fillies, the Suncoast, 1 mile and 40 yards on the dirt. Looking down toward the inside, Graham Motion's horse coming off a nice win at Laurel early January, won by 2.5 at 2-1. Has a nice tightener, a nice 5-furlong work of a minute going down at Tampa on February 1st. So this horse holds her form. So she's one of the plays in here I'm going to use. Going to the outside, the 9-horse Sweet Diane. This horse won going 2 turns at Penn in September, and then came back at Gulfstream going a 1-turn mile. Made a premature move, in my opinion, and just couldn't hold off Classic Fit, getting beat by a neck, running second at 3-1. A jockey change to Antonio Gallardo, who's probably the best rider at Tampa Bay Downs, is a plus for the 9, Sweet Diane. But my top pick here is going to be the 2-horse, Winning Envelope, daughter of More Than Ready, has never been on the dirt, ran in a couple of stakes up at Arlington Park, ran and won a $75,000 optional claimer on the turf for Churchill Downs in September, won by 4. Never been on the dirt, but this horse is showing some real nice works on the dirt at Tampa Bay, and that shows that this horse can run on the dirt, and I think this horse will run on the dirt. And the 2-horse Winning Envelope will be my top pick in the Suncoast. So a 2 with the 1-9 in the Suncoast for the fillies and mares. Another turf race is in the 10th. It's the Grade 3 Endeavor, another mile in the 16th race. 2 horses here. I don't think you're going to get much of a price here. The 8-horse Rimska comes over from the East Coast from Chad Brown, a 5-2 morning line favorite. This horse is running some pretty big races, ran out to Del Mar. This horse on class alone should run pretty well in this race tomorrow. But there's one horse in here who looks like could be the lone speed. That's the 6-horse Hawksmoor, trained by Armand Delacour. Steady works at Tampa Bay Downs. If Castellano has his head on tomorrow and breaks this horse on top, unlike what happened to this horse at Saratoga this summer when Castellano was asleep at the helm and speed was gold that day, and you could tell that he cost me a big daily double the way I'm talking. If this horse breaks on top that tomorrow, all systems go for Hawksmoor. So you're just hoping that Castellano knows what he's doing tomorrow and he breaks this horse on top. If he does, Hawksmoor wins. If not, I'm pretty sure the 8 Rimska is going to be the horse to beat him. So a 6-8, 8-6 in the 10th race at Tampa tomorrow brings it to the big race of the day tomorrow, the Grade 3 Sam F. Davis, a mile and a 16th on the dirt for 3-year-old colts. Couple of horses in here I'm looking at. One is the 8 horse, So Alive, trained by Todd Pletcher. This horse won a optional 75 claimer going a mile and 40 yards at Tampa. Prior to that, this horse won on the mud at Keeneland going 6 furlongs. A nice work at Palm Beach Downs. Only drawback here is you get Castellano again. You don't know if he's going to have the head in the clouds or the head on the track. So Alive is a horse I'm going to use in this race. Another horse I'm going to use is the 7-horse 5-Star General. This is owned by the same horses same people that owned Justify last year. Not saying this horse is Justify, folks, but I'm going to use this horse. Good works at Tampa. 2 nice wins, one at Laurel, one at Aqueduct. Horse stretches out to 2 turns for the first time, so we'll see what this horse is made of. But one horse I'm going to bet tomorrow that I usually ignore, but I have to use because this horse is just too consistent, is the 3-horse Knicks Go. And it's just like the name of the team, folks, Knicks. But this horse won the Breeders' Cup Futurity at Keeneland at 70-1, came back at Churchill Downs, ran second at 40-1. Just got used too hard in the Breeders' and the Kentucky Gold Cup at Churchill Downs in November, off of only about a 3-week rest. Think the horse got used a little too much in that month of November. Has the time off, has some really sweet works down at Tampa Bay, going back to the middle of January, 4 furlongs and 47, 5 and 58, and comes back with another 4 and 48. So this horse is tight, ready to go, and all systems go for Knicks Go. So Knicks Go is going to be my top pick in the Sam Davis, and I'm going to put those other horses behind him. So we'll see what happens. This is the beginning of the Derby Trail, and pay attention, and you never know when you might find another horse that could win a Kentucky Derby. Could